Give you a look at the team just in full and chat through it. It is, Matt, pretty much, I would say, Gibson Park aside, the strongest team that Andy Farrell could have picked.
Yeah, a very, very strong side. I have to say, look, let me start. Andy Farrell has got everything right in the last 2 years. He's with the team, he knows the team, he's in camp, he knows better, and his selectors know better than any of us, anyone. They know it. I am surprised with that selection. It's basically saying that team, that is close to our best side. Now, there's one or two changes that could come that we've mentioned, but it means that side's going to play every game from now on. And you're really hoping they go deep into the tournament, past the quarter-final. So it means they have to play 7 in a row. And, you know, that's a big call. And the other countries aren't doing that. The game we'll watch in a little while, France have picked a different side, New Zealand have picked a different side. It's not a criticism, it's an observation. And I think we'll only know if it's the right decision in the future, in some weeks' time.
To try and tease out the rationale, can I go for the Andrew Trimble theory?
Go for it.
So my sense listening to you over the warm-up games and after the win against Romania is you still don't quite feel that this Irish team is clicking and as crisp in their passing and have as much flow as you'd ideally like ahead of South Africa. So I think if that's true, and it may well be true here, I think maybe Andy Farrell and his management ticket hadn't planned to go effectively best team for the 7 games, but they're desperate to find form for South Africa because avoiding France in a quarter-final seems massively important. And I would think a secondary consideration, some of the second-string players flattered to deceive a touch against Samoa, and there is just no room for error against Tonga. So I think this may not have been the plan if you had chatted to Andy Farrell a month ago. What do you think about that theory?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to it. I think everything about that Samoa fixture was to replicate this. So it didn't go to plan, and this feels like plan B. And it feels like the overall plan it's certainly not been derailed. We definitely don't need to panic, but there's just a suggestion that we're not quite where we are, or where we should be. And yeah, I feel like we just haven't fully demonstrated that yet. Even if you look back over the warm-up games, then the Romania game, you know, a few handling errors against Romania, but Romania can't really take much from it either way. I'm more comfortable seeing a first choice team out there, getting a bit of momentum, ramping up into that South Africa game. Right. Whenever you look at France's big test, it was New Zealand first up. They went full strength against Australia the week before. When you look at South Africa's big test, it's Scotland, and they went full strength against New Zealand the week before. I think you need to go full strength to have that momentum to ramp up.
Yeah, 7 matches in a row.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here. I actually feel like it probably is pre-planned. I would imagine everything they're doing is planned.
Okay. So you're shooting down the Andrew Trimble theory?
Never.
It's the Joe Malloy theory.
The Joe Malloy, he caught you there. But look, I think it's pre-planned. I think everything this management group has done, there's been a lot of thought into the build-up to this World Cup. I would imagine with this Tongan team that they're playing, they probably didn't get defensive, line speed off Romania, the big hits that this team need to take before they go into the South Africa game. Maybe last week I would have thought there would have been a few more changes, but I definitely felt he's spoken about continuity, and that's the word he's using. So I feel like he's using this team and it's going to kick on into the physicality of that South African game. And
I think Fiona brings up a really good point. Then if we look at the week before, it was pretty close to the same side. Now, there are some changes, but a few minor ones. So basically, within a group at a World Cup, you've got to keep a whole lot of dynamics going. So it's basically saying to the other guys in the group, thanks very much. You hold those pads over there, we'll see you somewhere in November. So, and that's not what Andy Farrell, there's all this talk about the squad is strong, and I believe it, the squad is really strong. And again, it's not a criticism, it's just an observation that seems to be the team that's going to play every single game of the World Cup.
Yes.
And other sides, we look back, like their opponents aren't doing that. So I think it's unusual. It may very well be a stroke of genius, and it may very well work, but it is unusual.
I suspect Andy Farrell was there for a front row seat 4 years ago when Ireland slipped up against Japan.
Yep, fair
so
comment.
I presume that's in his mind as well. How big a banana skin is Tonga? It's pretty disrespectful even to say banana skin.
No, it's not a banana skin. It's going to be a bit of a test, and I think he's kind of alluded to that. He said we want to respect our opposition, respect the tournament, but more than anything, he's respecting their plan and what they're planning on doing and their opportunity to ramp up into it. So there's been plenty of examples of the history of the World Cup when teams have peaked and not been able to back it up. But we only tell those stories because they get into the position where they can't back it up. You never get to tell the story about the teams that get beat because they're planning for the future. You know, that's potentially 2019.
Yeah, that's the argument, isn't it?
Yeah, when you get there, you worry about it.
Today.
So tonight, we're worried about Tonga. Next week, we're worried about South Africa. We'll worry about the rest when we get there.
Even the front row, Fiona, I mean, like you were making the point before we came on air, it's a very interesting one that starting Irish front row we've seen it a lot over the last number of years, they will be left on the pitch for as long as possible against South Africa.
Yeah, you're spot on there. I think we've seen it in a couple of the big games against France. We've seen Tadhg Furlong in particular has to stay on for maybe 60, 70 minutes at a time.
And Andrew Porter lost 4 kgs at the weekend, such was the heat. So I don't know, do they need to go out again? That's why I'm not quibbling with the decision. Andy Farrell, of course, knows best, but even that's striking. Yeah,
I thought definitely front row, maybe one change we might have seen. Maybe Beelum get a run out and get a start because he's been doing well. But I feel like he's putting his stall out. He's getting these guys game time. He's getting them playing together. We know the scrum is going to come under massive pressure. And if this is his starting squad going into the South Africa game, they'll have withstood that Tongan pressure as well.
Yeah, I think. You know, I think both sides are right. Again, it's what's the future? But if we look back in the Six Nations against Italy, that I would feel like they pose a different challenge to Tonga. But Farrell was strong enough to change his side substantially for that Italian game and believe in the team that they could still go on and win the Grand Slam, which they did. So I think it's a talking point for sure, and it's a question mark that will carry for the rest of the tournament. But again, I'd say Andy Farrell has done a really good job up to this date, managed the team superbly. Yeah. But I know, and I think all the arguments are very valid, but I am surprised at it.
Okay, so you're very much, I would say, in the really not so sure surprise camp, and you like it.
I definitely like it. Yeah, I do.
Okay, take care today. Worry about the semi-final when we get there.
Yeah, and we're talking about this same 15 playing, Tonga, South Africa, Scotland, quarterfinal, semi-final, final. Yeah. Quarterfinal, semi-final, final don't exist unless they're successful now.
I know, but isn't there something to be said for, like, if you're the world number one side, you'd be a touch more strategic and plan for the tournament as a whole without being arrogant?
Well, it's the South Africa game, I think, and I suppose in a way, making sure we're ramping up into the South Africa game is planning for the rest of the tournament, because we're worried about quarterfinal where we're hoping we get the All Blacks.
Yes.
And that week off as well.
Praying
have that week off as well.
Sorry, Fiona. Yes, the week off. Fair point.
Which after that game will be huge for this team as well.
Okay.
All valid points.
Yes.
All valid points.
Well, look, as ever, hindsight's going to be very sitting pretty in a couple of weeks' time.
Hindsight's going to be, I told you so.
Yeah.